Good evening. Welcome to the Fantasy Wildcard Dynasty show. I'm your host, Kev. You can follow me on Twitter at Dynasty_GOAT. With me tonight, the band. We're fully all here, all in, bringing you it ready for Christmas. First off, I'm going to bring you over to Matt, who you can follow on Twitter at MattFFDynasty. He was 1991 baby of the year in Doncaster, so please celebrate that with us as well. How are you doing, Matt?
Not too bad, Kev. Yeah, not too bad. Getting in the mood for Christmas. Obviously, we've still got a lot of football coming up this week, which is going to be great. But obviously, Christmas is deciding to get in the way this week. So while I am looking forward to the football side of things, I feel like Christmas might just get in the way, which is a bit annoying. But either way, it's going to be a lot of fun. Broke up from work, so I'm absolutely buzzing that I know. Check me out. I'm going to have loads of time to enjoy everything. So absolutely buzzing.
Yeah, it's a shame that the week 16 slate is on Christmas Eve, and it's going to potentially ruin Christmas for a few. But never mind, we'll get over it. I'm sure. I won't be crying over Christmas dinner, will we? And I'm going to bring you now to our second co-host, Ali. You can follow on Twitter at FFDynasty_Grill. This guy has captained England cricket team to many victories, so please celebrate him as well. How are you doing, Ali?
We're quite a famous bunch, actually, aren't we?
I'm just like a bust. I'm a bust NFL wide receiver, me. So
no, I'm pretty good, thank you. Santa's brought us some Christmas presents early this week. We had the famous snowball game this week to watch, the Bills game, which was quite hilarious. It's always good that the Cowboys lost as well, so that was an early Christmas present. The Super Bowl champs, they got eliminated from the playoffs, which is always satisfying as well. And the Buccaneers, we went 17-0 up, and then I think the game finished. So, that was another bonus. So, but apart from that, doing absolutely fine, Kev. Looking forward to tonight's show with you both. Merry Christmas.
Yeah, I'm sorry to be Scrooge, but it didn't end 17-0, Ali. It was a horrible second half, to be fair, from the Bucs. But yeah, we've got some massive news this week. A couple of bits of massive news. It's not that Santa's going to be here in 5 nights. It's a lot worse than that. It's terrible for me and my Eagles team, actually. First of all, Jalen Hurts injury, sprained right shoulder, looking questionable for this week, for the next few weeks. So it's really putting the pressure on dynasty owners that are in semis, that are potentially in finals if you've got a small league and you've got Hurts as your anchor QB. So what do you do with Jalen Hurts? What's your thoughts on if you've got him on a contender, if you rebuild him? We'll come to you first, Matt. Just any general thoughts on Jalen Hurts owners?
I mean, first of all, ruined Christmas, hasn't it, early, this news coming through. I know a lot of people, Jalen Hurts is the QB1 right now, so he's carried a lot of teams to currently where they are. Probably got you a bye if you have bye weeks in your fantasy league. I mean, how distraught are you that you've had that bye week and this injury coming through this past week? It's brutal. Didn't want to bring it up, but Kev, obviously we played each other. I've got Jalen Hurts on my roster. I'm kind of glad, to be honest, that you did beat me once again for the third year on the trot, beating me in the semi-finals, losing to the better fantasy player, clearly. So,
not true.
Yeah, it's been a rough one, but I'm kind of glad, to be honest, that I lost, because without Jalen Hurts, I've got no chance. And I'm through in Scott Fishbowl, but again, I've got Jalen Hurts, so it just feels like that's ended for me. So, I mean, the only thing you can do if you are fortunate enough to not have deadlines in your fantasy leagues and your dynasty leagues, then I think you've got to look to move off. If you're in a position where you feel you can win it. We know Jalen Hurts is probably ranked as a top 2 quarterback currently in fantasy. So you've got your pick of the litter, really, in terms of what you can go out and get. So, I mean, if you're feeling confident, if you feel like you're strong enough to win it, I think you've got to look to make a move and move off Jalen Hurts. But it is going to be a tough one, because we know what an absolute stud he's been this year. So, I just think overall it's guttering this stage of the season that we've lost one of the best fantasy players in the game that we play. So it's not a great start to Christmas, sadly.
And Ali, how about yourself on this? Like, if you're rebuilding, what sort of deal would you offer? Would you try and put pressure on them? Would you be expecting the Hurts owner to basically be in a tough place and have to take whatever offers thrown at him, really?
Yeah, I think it's the tough side of Dynasty, but it's also the dirty side where I think you have to put pressure on right now. If you've got someone in the playoffs that's in that semi-final, you've got to be sending them messages saying, look, come on, I've got a quarterback here in Trevor Lawrence or someone like that that's playing really well right now that could pique your interest, could tip you over the edge. You know, you're going to win this year. You paid money to enter this league. You want to get some money back and make it through to that final. So I would be putting pressure on right now and really trying to make a move for a guy that, I mean, Jalen Hurts, next season when he gets the bag, we know he's got these amazing weapons around him. That is a fantastic team. Bijan Robinson's been mocked to the Eagles everywhere. I mean, this is exciting times for this Eagles franchise.
Jesus.
And he's going to be a top 3 dynasty guy for the next 5 years or so. So I would definitely be putting pressure on that owner right now, because if you're in the playoffs right now, I mean, how bad would it feel just to go out with a whimper? I think you have to try and do something. So, I think you have to put pressure on him.
Yeah, we mentioned it on last week's show with Kyler Murray that you have to really move off him. You're going to have QB3s that are solid, but they're not going to give you anything near what Jalen Hurts is giving you. So it's tough times. There's been loads of QB injuries, aren't there? Like there's Hurts, there's Kyler Murray, there's Lamar Jackson. I've actually got a team that's in a semi with Lamar Jackson and Jalen Hurts, so that's looking pretty ominous from that point of view. But I'll have to make a move this week. It might not be moving Hurts, but I'll have to make a move, and I think I'll probably try and move Lamar, but we'll see how that goes. See if he is really questionable or not, if it's just a bit of kidology from the Eagles, but I don't think it is. I'm just living in a false hope. But more bad news as well. So, at the weekend, Saturday's games, Jonathan Taylor's got a high ankle sprain. He's out for the season now. So again, you've got a top running back who's injured, and he's going to be missing for the final couple of games, the key games of the season. So, Ali, what's your thoughts on this situation?
Well, I don't think it hurts as bad as a Jalen Hurts going down, because Jonathan Taylor is not the Jonathan Taylor we've seen the last couple of seasons, where he's been tearing up the league. He's been fairly disappointing, not giving you them high ceilings that he normally has. So from that point of view, it still hurts to have someone that you know can go off at any time and help you win a championship. But I think you're a bit lucky where there's some cheaper pivots at the running back position right now. We might talk about some. You've got the likes of the RB1 from the past 2 weeks in Jerick McKinnon, or Jerick McCaffrey, as some people are calling him. You've got someone like a Zonovan Knight, just cheap options where you can trade a 2nd round pick, a 3rd round pick, a throwaway guy, younger guy that you can just plug in and play, that will almost give you as much upside, especially like McKinnon right now, than Jonathan Taylor would on that offense. So it's not too bad as a Jalen Hurts one, but still, if you are competing, you have to make another move to plug in another guy, or at least get a little bit more depth.
Yeah, and Matt, if you've got JT, what sort of move would you be looking to make? Would it be a straight pivot off JT, or would it be maybe sniffing around one of these cheaper guys and just keeping JT for next season?
I think it's interesting because I've got Jonathan Taylor on a team that's contending. I just tweeted out about today that I made a move. I know full well that I've overpaid. I know I'm going to look back on it and hate the trade, but I traded away Jonathan Taylor in a 24 first to get Tyreek Hill and Dalvin Cook. So 2 guys, Dalvin Cook, not somebody I'm super high on, but the schedule for the next couple of games looks pretty good. He looked pretty good this past week. So getting a running back in there and then getting Tyreek Hill has obviously been superb this year. So just one of those moves where I feel like I'm in a position where I can contend. So why not push the chips in? I know it's an overpay, as I say. I know it's one that I'm going to look back on and regret. I hated it the moment I clicked the button, to be honest, and accepted it. But it's just like Ali mentioned earlier. I think if you're in a position, you paid your money to get in the league. If you're in a position to win some money, why not just push the chips in and go for it? So that's a move I've made. But I think Ali makes a great point when it comes to running backs, especially. We know that there's guys like Ali mentioned, somebody like McKinnon that's putting up great numbers at the minute you can get for next to nothing. Again, I know a league that we're in, Kev. I traded away for a couple of thirds, which probably could have got a bit more out of it, to be honest, to get him with how he's been performing. But I'm rebuilding. That gives me a couple of shots in this next draft in the 3rd round. And as I say, I quite like the strength of this draft. So it felt like it was one of those that was good for both situations, both sides of that trade. So I think running backs, you can look to maybe go for these cheaper guys and fill in.
Yeah, and I think with quarterback, you need to play 2 elite quarterbacks if you can. With running back, I think especially your running back 2 spot. That is a spot on your dynasty teams where you're happy pretty fast your weakest spot. If it's running back 2 or tight end, you can sort of plug in and get by if needs be. We know that tight end you want to have the top ones if you're making a massive push, but running back 2 is probably the ideal weakest position, so it's not as bad. So terrible injuries to bring the festive cheer, I guess, but we have got a cracking show lined up today. Before we get into that, I just want to say, last week I said Evan Ingram over a 24-second, and I just want to retract that statement. I don't know what happened to me, but I would not be taking Evan Ingram over 24 seconds. So I just wanted to clear that up because I couldn't sleep all of last week with that on my mind. So yeah, we'll swiftly move on. We've got a brilliant show today. We've got the recapping of week 15, cracking names. We've given a little teaser to a few of the names out there already, and the first guy we're going to discuss is someone that's on fire, really. Who have we got, Matt?
Yeah, I'll give a little hint at the start of the show of this guy that I'm going to talk about, and it's got to be Goldilocks himself, Trevor Lawrence, just absolutely serving it up at the moment. It's been great. This is the quarterback that we've spoke about when he came to NFL. Probably one of the best college careers that we've seen since somebody like Andrew Luck. Just been fantastic. So somebody we've all been high on ever since he came in. Sadly, the first year couldn't really get things going, but under Urban Meyer, what do you expect from that kind of coaching? But this year, yeah, Trevor Lawrence is looked worlds apart from what we saw last year. Currently, the quarterback 6 on the year, and then like I mentioned, on fire at the moment over the last 4 weeks. Currently sitting as the quarterback 3. So, as I say, just worlds apart from what we saw last year. 24 touchdowns, which is 5th in the NFL, and 7 interceptions. Just compare that to last year, just the 12 touchdowns and 17 interceptions last year. So. Yeah, he's been fantastic. He's been that quarterback that we all hoped he would be. As I say, he's a guy that I think all 3 of us have been really high on. It's just great to see him finally producing the fantasy points, but as well just looking good as an NFL quarterback. You feel like he's got that longevity. I think he's a franchise quarterback. What he's shown this year has been amazing, and in fantasy we've been rewarded because he's putting up the numbers, even though he has got that rushing ability to him. He's not really done a great deal of rushing, but you do know he's still got that in his locker as well. He has scored, I think, 3 or 4 rushing touchdowns. So gives you that little bit of upside in terms of running the ball. But as a passer, yeah, he's been fantastic this year. And then just looking ahead to next year as well, you just got to think this year he's been dealing with Christian Kirk, a guy that I've been really high on. Who's looked great, but Zay Jones as well. I think he's currently sitting as a wide receiver 19. So, I mean, is this Zay Jones? Is he a generational wide receiver, or is it the quarterback player that's elevating this offense? And I think I'm gonna side with the second part of that. I think Trevor Lawrence has just lifted this entire offense, and as I say, it's been great. Looking forward to next year. Calvin Ridley coming in as well, giving another boost to this offense, and we know they could address some more needs in the draft as well. So overall, super excited for Trevor Lawrence in Dynasty. I think if you were able to get him, he was probably going around 3rd round, I think, in startup. I think I got him in early 3rd in a couple of Dynasty startups this offseason. I think he's got to be a back-end wide receiver, 1st round quarterback in startups now. I'm super excited, and if you've got him, you're happy, and if not, I'm afraid you've got to pay up to get this guy now.
You do, and I'm intrigued for his matchup this week. I think he has the Jets on Thursday night, so that is going to be a big test in a big game where the Jaguars actually control their own destiny. If they win out, they'll win the division. And like as you mentioned, they are red hot right now. Will be interesting to see how he does against Sauce Gardner. But yeah, for me, he's still a buy in Dynasty because I think if he carries on this projection, this rate, then I think, as you mentioned, he's going to be a 1st round draft pick in Superflex formats come next season. So your last chance to get him, not cheap, but still not super expensive, I think is right now. I do think that he's still in his top 5. I do think he's really shown the ability for that growth from disastrous last year to this year. And then the Jaguars as well, since week 7, they are 8th in neutral pass rate. So he's been absolutely slinging it, averaging over 40 attempts per game the last couple of weeks. And he's just been doing it consistently as well. You have to go back to week 8 where he had a bad game. So 8 out of the last 9 games, he's had really good fantasy outings. The only thing that I want to see more of is a little bit more rushing output. We know he's got these decent weapons to throw to, so he's not looking to run. He's not in trouble. He's composed and he does pass the ball well and accurately this season as well. But yeah, I'd like to see that slightly increases, just 17 yards per game. So really it's a non-factor this season. Rushed a bit more last season, but it was chaotic for him, should we say. 4 rushing touchdowns. There's only 4 quarterbacks who have rushed for more touchdowns, so that's quite a nice little stat. And yeah, you just feel really good about the Jaguars as a whole. It's a team that are on the rise. Doug Peterson is a really good coach. This offense is pointing up, as you mentioned, Calvin Ridley coming across next year, which is going to be a great addition if he's got anything left in the tank. We know how good a player he is. So yeah, it is exciting times for Lawrence owners. I think if you're in the fantasy playoffs with Lawrence, I think he could help you win titles the way he's shown up the last few weeks. And yeah, going forward, I think he's going to be a first round pick come the draft next season.
Yeah, I think Goldilocks, that's a quality reference, that, Matt. I think last season and the early part of this season, it was like the first and the second ball, wasn't it? I think right now he's eating out that third ball and it's just right. He's just absolutely on fire. He's doing great in an ascending offense, a young offense, a great offensive mind as well behind that, Doug Peterson. So lots to like about him. Keep trade cut his QB8 above guys like Kyler Murray and Deshaun Watson. I think when we get to next season, that should flip when they can prove that they're healthy and they're back on form because of the dual threat ability. But right now, he deserves to be above them. You're playing for right now, and he's obviously scoring more than Kyler Murray, and he's definitely going to be scoring more than Deshaun Watson, you'd think, as well. So no problems with that ranking where people have got him. I see a similar trajectory to Justin Herbert in the sense of the offense is fantastic around him. As that continues to grow, he'll continue to grow. I do feel that a little bit like Herbert has shown, if the offense dips for whatever reason, that could affect him. But I mean, we're talking about a guy that QB 3 to 5 range, well within his range of outcomes. So got to be really pleased with how he's developed, and especially after that poor rookie season, it's really important. We've seen that bounce back like we have with Justin Fields. So you didn't want to be getting into year 3 without seeing the flashes, a little bit like how we feel on Zach Wilson now, where he's like dead to a lot of people. So a few trades for us to discuss to see where we have Trevor Lawrence in comparison to his peers as such. So first trade is Trevor Lawrence and the 104 in this draft, or Pat Mahomes.
I mean, this is a tough one. It's literally 50-50 to me right now, but I think Kev, you just made a great point about Trevor Lawrence. I think he's still got that room to grow, and he could easily get up to how we're looking at Justin Herbert right now. And would you give up Justin Herbert in the 104 for Patrick Mahomes? I think that'd be a bit too rich, to be honest. So I'm just looking at it from that perspective. I think Trevor Lawrence has got room to grow. So if we can get a quarterback that's going up to be a potential top 3, top 4 quarterback, then getting the 104 on top, yeah, I'm gonna take a chance that I think Trevor Lawrence is going to be as good as what we all hope he is, and take Lawrence on that 104 as well, which could be a solid running back in this upcoming class.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, Mags is going to hate this answer, but it's going to go against Mahomes. As Matt mentioned, there's so much upside with Trevor Lawrence going forward. And then the 104, you can go which way. It's one of the quarterbacks. If they drop there, you've got the pick of the wide receivers or the pick of the next running back. So it's going to be a pretty special player as well. So I'll take that side.
Good stuff. Trade number 2, we've got Trevor Lawrence or the guy I mentioned, Deshaun Watson.
Yeah, great one to bring up with. Obviously, Deshaun Watson struggling at the moment. It feels like a great time to maybe target Watson, because people have waited so long for Watson to come back, and they've probably hoped that he'd come in and be an immediate top 5 quarterback like we've seen. But I think we know it's going to take time with Watson. So both similar situations where I think they could both gain in value right now. I'm just going to side with Deshaun Watson, because I think, like you mentioned, Kev, I think he's got a little bit more rushing upside. It's a tough one, but I'm just going to lean Deshaun Watson, I think.
Yeah, I think they're in the same tier in Dynasty now, but I do lean Watson because them 3 top 5 finishes in a row, we know what he can do. I think the offense is going to be decent when he has command of it next season, and that Russian output just sides it his way. Yeah,
I think on that one, I'd probably take Lawrence now, but first week of the playoffs, real life, I'd be taking Watson. So it's just me being a bit of a jerk then. And then the last one is Trevor Lawrence or Daniel Jones, this year's 103 and 203.
Yeah, trying to tug on the heartstrings a little bit here, Kev, going for Daniel Jones, but I think it's quite easy for me. I'm taking Trevor Lawrence, to be honest. While Daniel Jones has been serviceable, I think he will stick in the NFL. I'm not too sure he's going to stick with the Giants, but I think he will stick as maybe a bridge quarterback that can fill in and maybe have Jimmy Garoppolo, maybe kind of trajectory in terms of his career. But give me that known quantity in Trevor Lawrence. So I said I think the ceiling and potential there is huge for him. So I'm taking Trevor Lawrence on this one.
Yeah, it's a little bit closer for me. I feel like with that 103, you're going to get one of the two standout elite quarterbacks is going to drop to you. And if as it is going to go, I think they're both going to go top 5. So you're going to get really good draft capital quarterback that could be there for the next 5 or so years. But yeah, I'll just take Trevor Lawrence just because of the tremendous upside that he's showing, not just on the field, but in fantasy as well. His upside is huge at the minute.
Yeah, I think if that's a QB, like maybe someone a bit safer, Kirk Cousins, that's a little bit more appealing to me because I think taking on 3 risky assets, it's a way to ruin your teams as such. But we're going to move on to the next guy. This is someone that if you've got him, he's not ruining your teams at all. He's been amazing. So, Ali, who's the first guy you want to chat about?
Yeah, so I had a big dilemma in my home league this week. It was Ramondre Stevenson was the guy that I was relying on. And I had him on my bench because of the news that he wasn't practicing early in the week. Then he got limited and then he had to go for a pre-game workout. And it was all really, oh no, I just couldn't face putting someone else. I think I had AJ Dillon on my bench. And I thought, I need Ramondre to carry me through. And I mean, what a game that he had. 19 rushes for 172 yards and a touchdown was not bad for a guy with a dodgy ankle. So fantastic for Ramondre this week, but it's not just done it this week. He's the RB5 this week, but he's the RB8 on the year, more importantly. And since Damian Harris went out with the injury in week 5 and has sort of struggled since, came back a couple of times, but not really fully healthy. Ramondre's the RB6, averaging 18.2 points per game. So for years, I've been saying I've always wanted to try and avoid this Patriots backfield because they don't like to rely on one guy, so usually a committee, and it's so frustrating to see the guy that you play one week don't get the touchdowns and it's some unknown player. But yeah, it's been fantastic just to get that clarity this year, to get that certainty. And for me, there's just no worries now when Harris comes back. I think it will remain Ramondre season. It's going to be pretty much not going to be a workhorse role, but I don't think Harris is going to come in for the sort of the share that he has been having early part of this season and back into last season. So yeah, really good for Ramondre. He's got 2 more seasons under contract, which is crucial. And he's now up to the RB12 on keep trade cut. So he's someone that you're going to have to pay up to acquire right now. We know Damian Harris is a free agent in the off season. We know that this is a fantastic free agent class. It's going to be crazy with the guys like Saquon Barkley and Jacobs, etc. And we've also got a really good upcoming draft class as well, with some really good rookies coming in. So it's going to shake up the dynasty landscape completely. But I do think that Ramondre is a guy that can really benefit from being that lead guy next season. I don't think the Patriots are going to spend up for a running back, and I don't think they're going to draft one early. So I think Ramondre is going to be the guy, and he's going to be a top 12, possibly top 10 running back in Dynasty come next season. I'm really, really getting confident about Ramondre. He looks every bit the workhorse running back, which you don't see that often nowadays in fantasy.
Yeah, we spoke about Ramondre about 5 or 6 weeks ago, and I was the most skeptical out of us 3, I think, just based on the day 3 draft capital and the sort of nostalgia regarding the Patriots backfield. But I've got to admit that I was wrong. I think he's continued to be fantastic, as you mentioned then. Some of the metrics that he's showing out in it's to do with like pass work, efficiency, making yards on his own. Really key things showing that he's not situation dependent. I think it's going to be really hard for someone to come in and take away either pass work or touchdown vultures. I can't see him being effective massive with whoever they bring in. It is a worry that there is an amazing draft class and a free agent class, but if I'm the Patriots, there's a lot more worries I've got on that offense than running back. Running back's probably the only spot that you can sort of right in permanent mark that he's got that tied down. So yeah, I think I'm fully in now. I'm ready to get hurt and looking forward to it, because I was high on Ramondre before he came into the league. It's just where he landed and sort of the price he was going at. But I'm happy to join the crowd a little bit late, pay a little bit of a premium as to what other people might have paid, but with that bit of certainty, that bit of consistency that I've seen.
Yeah, I think while I might have been a little bit higher than what you were, Kev, when we last spoke about Ramondre, I did still have those concerns, like we said, with Bill Belichick. We know that he can just be an absolute fantasy nightmare, and what he does to us as fantasy players is super frustrating. But I just feel like now he knows he's got this talent in Ramondre Stevenson. I mean, in years gone by with the Patriots, yeah, they've had some good running backs. I don't think they've really had anyone that stands out that you think could do it all as what Ramondre's shown this year. He's shown it in terms of running the ball. He's shown it. He's been a PPR monster, to be honest, this year in the amount of targets and receptions he's had. It's helped that he's got Mac Jones there, that statue quarterback. We love it for fantasy because we know that them dump offs are coming to your running back. So I think the whole situation, while we doubted it at first, I think now we've seen it, and we've seen it all. Yeah, I think we've got to now believe that. Yeah, I think Ramondre is the guy, and we've spoke about the fact that there's this strong upcoming draft class and the free agency pool. But I mean, we've got to remember the Patriots spent a couple of draft picks last year on running backs. They got Kevin Harrison and Pierre Strong. So, I mean, they're two guys that they've spent some capital. I know they were both day 3 guys, but I mean, they've spent a couple of draft picks there. I think they've still got JJ Taylor as well at running back. So it's not like that they haven't got a running back if they let Damien Harris go. So I feel like, as I say, what they've seen in Ramondre, I think Pierre Strong's a really nice complementary back. He's looked good when he's had the opportunity when Ramondre's gone down. So I'm going to err on the side of confidence here that I think Ramondre is that guy. I think Bill Belichick likes what he's got in this running back. And as I say, he's worked on that passing work in the offseason. So I just feel like he's got the whole game, and on a team that runs the ball a lot. I mean, we should be excited. I feel like it's just the memories of Bill Belichick beating us up in fantasy that's not letting us fully invest. But I think if you can let that go, yeah, I think we've got a stud here in New England. So with that, I'm interested to know where you two guys are in terms of his value in terms of trade. So the first one is Ramondre Stevenson, or a guy that's currently injured in Javonte Williams.
Mm-hmm. This is a tough one because I absolutely love Javonte Williams, and I have a lot of him. He's probably my most owned running back, or one of them. Traded for him while he's been on IR because of that value. But right now, I would go for Ramondre Stevenson just because the certainty of what he's going to give you right now and moving forward. It is tough as a Javonte owner because you see Latavius Murray tearing it up right now with the Broncos, putting in a good performance. And you just think, had he stayed healthy, he could possibly be the running back 1 right now in Dynasty. The landscape is so up and down. But it's a bit more unknown about, obviously, if he's going to come back full speed. I'll just take Stevenson, as I think he can be an RB1 in Dynasty, and just take that certainty.
Yeah, see, Stevenson for me is produced better than Javonte did in his games. He's shown that he can be a 3-down workhorse where Javonte hasn't. He's been a 2-down back. Well, not 2-down, a split field back since since college, really. So yeah, Ramondre quite easy actually for me on that one.
Okay, I mean, if you said that at the start of the year, I don't think people have been so confident. So yeah, it's been great to see Ramondre come this year. But yeah, the second one then, Ramondre Stevenson or Brian Robinson, and a mid 23 second. Let's call it the 205.
Yeah, I'm going to go against Paul Pickens, running back stud in Brian Robinson. And although I do like what I've seen from Brian Robinson, the situation at the Washington is a bit complicated. I've always been a big Antonio Gibson fan, and you just see it week in, week out. They seem to flip flop where who gets the work. Yeah, it's not an easy backfield to predict. I mean, as is the Patriots, but we hope we've got a bit more certainty. So I'll just take that side, although it is close.
Yeah, I'll take Stevenson's side. I think with Robinson, we mean a 2-down guy. It just doesn't excite me. You're just going to have to hit an absolute gem in round 2 to make that a fair trade.
Fair enough. So with the final one, I'll try and find a gem for you here, Kevin, and one that gets you excited. So this one is Ramondre Stevenson and an early 23 second or Breece Hall.
This is really, really close. And one, I think I'm going to slide with the Breece Hall side, just from the glimpses that we saw this year with the Jets. He was absolutely fantastic. Stevenson's been absolutely great, and you're talking an early 23 second, which could be a Boutte. So, well, no, not him. Someone who's going to slip out of the first round, who we know's got real good upside. So, I'll take the Brees Hall side, but that move would feel pretty disgusting right now.
Yeah, I'm going to take a side with the generational running back in Ramondre Stevenson.
Wow.
And keeping it on the theme of generational running backs, I'm going to bring on to my first guy. I think he's the first person that popped into my head when I thought about studs this week, and we could have spoke about him last week. He's had a little mention this week already. Running back 1 on the week, Jerick McKinnon of the Chiefs. I think I'm not going to lavish too much about him because we know this guy's a short-term sort of move. He's 30 years old. He's been in the league for about 8 or 9 years. He had a 2-year period in the middle where he didn't even play through injury or sitting out or whatnot. So such a big comeback actually to lead the backfield. But the Chiefs have done this before. They did it with Damian Williams a couple of times where he just sort of came from nowhere and took him into the playoffs and kept the lead role. And I think McKinnon's going to do the same. I think the fact that he's been running back 1-2 weeks on the trot, no one's taking that work from him. 2 weeks ago, he did the pass game work, and then we thought, it's a trap game this week against Houston. They're going to be up, etc. But game-winning touchdown or rush, so there's plenty of confidence there. Longer term, you can't get excited, but I think short-term play on championship-winning sides or championship-contending sides, he's a guy that if you have got one of these injuries like JT, you've got to be interested in. Can you get him for a third? Can you get him for 2/3, a late second? Potentially. We'll establish that in a little bit, but I think he's someone that you can be reliant on, you can have confidence in. I personally didn't have confidence in him this week. I benched him in a league which, if I'd played him, I would have won and advanced. So pretty fuming about that, but I think I made the right call. I don't think he should have been in your lineups based on one game. Now that he's gone back-to-back, I'm more open to it.
Yeah, absolutely. He's smashed it the last 2 weeks, and then we've not even mentioned who he's got this week. He's got the Seahawks, which I think are one of the worst teams in terms of what they do against the running back. So he's got a great matchup again this week. Yeah, I'd be more shocked if he wasn't an RB1 this week than if he wasn't, to be honest. So yeah, as I say, he's looked great this year or these past couple of games anyway. It's been interesting seeing how it's shaped up with Isaiah Pacheco. I think the fact that Pacheco obviously fumbled the ball this week, that kind of put him in the doghouse for a little bit, gave McKinnon a little bit more work early on in the game. But then, yeah, like you said, Kev, we worry when it comes to running back like this. It didn't have a great deal of rushing work the week before, but had a lot of receptions and in a cake matchup. But yeah, he managed to do it both ways. And I think it's interesting with Patrick Mahomes. It feels like whenever they get near the goal line, you'd usually assume, yeah, it's got to be a run play. But when you've got Patrick Mahomes, I mean, the playbook is fully open and what he can do with the ball. Yeah, I think he's throwing the ball more than what they're actually running the ball at the goal line. So yeah, he's in a fantastic situation with the offense that he's in. Like you mentioned, Kev, I think long term, I'm not super excited, and that's why, like I said at the top of the show, I did trade him away where I'm looking to rebuild. But again, he's that perfect target if you're contending to get a cheap guy for a couple of thirds, a late second, like Kev said. So yeah, he's killing it. He's got a great matchup this week. Yeah, it could be that potential league winner that we all like to brandish when we're talking about these guys.
Yeah, so frustrating. I've got him in a couple of leagues where the trade deadline has passed and I'm not contending and I'm just dying to try and trade him to someone because I know he's worth value right now. So yeah, if you have him, you have to try and move off him if you're not a contender. I think you have to go for him because he's still so cheap for a guy that could win you the next couple of matchups. He's got such great upside and he's got, more importantly, great chemistry with Patrick Mahomes. You trust him in and around the goal line. Yeah, he's a great target for Mahomes right now. And he's not got Tyreek Hill. He's got Juju. He's got some fairly good weapons and still got Kelsey. But he really trusts Jerick McKinnon. So yeah, who knows what upside that he can bring this season and maybe a cheap deal next season. They keep him on the team. Who knows? But we'll establish his Dynasty value right now. So a couple of scenarios. One that we spoke about earlier where if you're a contender and you lost Jonathan Taylor. Kev, would you spend a 24-second for McKinnon right now?
I wouldn't actually, no. I think I'd probably do a late second this year, but I think with it being next year, anything can happen with your team. It could end up being a really early second. So I'll just lean on the side of caution on that one with McKinnon, and hopefully my running back 2 is not an absolute dummy.
I'm going to go against Kev, to be honest. I think, I pay it. I mean, it's a couple of years away. A lot can change, like Kev mentioned, but in the same turn, you've got players that you can potentially move for a 24 seconds. So I think if you're in a situation where you can win the league, you've got a guy that's just finished as the RB1 this past week. He's got a cake matchup this week against the Seahawks. I mean, I'm happy to pay a second in a couple of years' time to try and win that championship.
Would you trade him for Evan Ingram?
No, absolutely not.
All right, trade scenario 2. So you're a contender as well, as you both are. And you've got Javonte Williams on your team. So would you trade Javonte for Jerick McKinnon, the 2023, 203 and 204?
Now, this one, I would do it because I think Javonte's still got a lot of question marks. I know he's got that potential, but has he shown anything over a long period of time? And the answer's no. So those early seconds are appealing for players that are going to fall out the first. And you've got, obviously, generational league winner McKinnon as well. So give me the pick side, please.
Yeah, I think this is one of those perfect situations. You're contending, you're able to get a win now piece, but you're also getting a couple of dart throws in this upcoming class. And to be honest, I don't even think they are dart throws, them early seconds. And we spoke about it all year. I think they're going to be some really solid players. So getting 2 solid potential running backs, wide receivers at those spots, plus a guy that could potentially help you win a championship this week. While it's tough to give up Javonte Williams, I think I agree with Kev. I'd make that move.
All right, this one's just a bit of a fun one. So who do you prefer, the Chiefs backfield or the Dolphins backfield? So Jerick McKinnon and Isaiah Pacheco, or Jeff Wilson and Raheem Mostert?
Purely for me, I'm thinking this season, and I think the Chiefs backfield's clearer, so I'll take that side. I'll take Jerick McKinnon over probably Wilson and Mostert in a deal, actually.
Yeah, I just think there's going to be so much change this offseason in terms of backfield with, like we said, the strength of the class and the free agency. I feel like you've just got to look at it as a win now, this moment in time. And what McKinnon's doing right now, I think you've got to take him because I think he outvalues all of them at the moment. So, I'll take the Chiefs backfield.
Indeed. And now we're going to move on to the guy we've seen some booms, we've seen some busts, but an interesting guy nonetheless. So, Matt, who's your next guy?
Yeah, it's a guy that I wasn't super high on when he came in this year into the NFL, but I think he's definitely shown flashes, and that's Jahan Dotson. This past week had another boom week. I know it all too well against my Giants. Finishes as wide receiver 9, 4 receptions, 105 yards, and a touchdown. Then it's not just one time he's done it to me. He's done it 2 times because the game he played before obviously had the bye week 14. Week 13 again against my Giants. A little less in terms of the yardage, just 54 yards, but 5 receptions and a touchdown again in that one. So as I say, he's a guy that's definitely at the front of my mind right now, given what he's managed to do the past couple of times he's played against my Giants. But then as well, just thinking back to the start of the year, made a really hot start to the season, 4 touchdowns in those first 4 weeks, and then sadly had that injury, landed on IR, which kind of derailed, as I say, what was a hot start to the season. Took a little bit of time to come back, but as I say, came back these last couple of games and has looked really good. Like I mentioned at the start, not a guy that I was super high in terms of a prospect coming in, but I mean, the signs were there. I mean, Washington spent that first round pick on him. I believe that they traded back that's where they traded back with the Saints, I think, and picked up Dotson with the 16th overall pick. So the fact that they were willing to spend that first round pick on a wide receiver, they was obviously happy to move back. This is probably a guy that they really liked. So the signs were definitely there that they had a big plan for Dotson. It's interesting, obviously, Terry McLaurin being there as well. But yeah, to be honest, I think Dotson's a guy that's really stood out to me this year, and a guy that I'd potentially be looking to target, given the fact that he's had such an up and down season because of the injuries. I think you can still get him at a pretty good value. And then we've just got to think as well, I think that we need to get an upgrade at quarterback for Washington. It's been a few years now with Terry McLaurin, a guy that people have been eyeing, that we've just been waiting for a quarterback. It feels like it's going to be the same with Jahan Dotson. But currently they're sitting in at that 21st pick in the NFL draft. I think there's potential there that they could even maybe move up a few spots and maybe grab one of these lesser quarterbacks. I think the top 2 in this class might be a little bit out of reach, but I feel like if Washington can get a quarterback, give an improved quarterback situation, I think this is a guy that you could potentially grab quite cheap at the moment, and we're quite excited to see what he can do at Washington.
Yeah, it was quite rare last rookie drafts where a guy that had really solid draft capital, went right in the slap bang in the middle of round 1, was actually dropping to round 2 in the rookie draft.
Yeah.
So I was happy to clean up and just go with that draft capital, knowing that the Commanders are going to sit with him for at least the next 5 years. And quite like the talent as well from Dotson. I think he's a decent player. I think it's going to be very similar with him and McLaurin, because McLaurin's going to be there long term as well. I don't think either one of these is going to be the dominant guy. I think they're going to share weeks, so it could be frustrating to be one of the owners of these two players. But yeah, Matt said it there. It's going to all come down to the quarterback. Currently not got a quarterback that can carry both of these two guys in terms of fantasy. One of the guys is going to have a decent week. The other guy's going to have an okay week. Then they're going to flip flop the next week. It's going to be frustrating. But just the fact, I still think you can pick him up for fairly cheap. I know he's a guy I see in a lot of my leagues where he's almost like a throw-in, where someone that just doesn't value him as high as they should do. And we've not quite seen the sheer upside of Dotson yet. So people are happy to throw him into deals. And I'm happy to pick him up at the minute and just play the long game with him, just to see in a couple of years, does he get an elite quarterback where it could really elevate his game to be a top 24 wide receiver? I think he has the talent for it. It's just whether the situation arises where it matches.
Yeah, Dotson. I think with Dotson, he's someone that's team dependent on your roster, because I think he's too boom bust. His profile is someone that's a smaller guy that's a deep threat. So he does have these boom games where he has 4 catches for 100 yards and a touchdown. I think he's got 6 touchdowns on the year, and that's off maybe like 20, 24 grabs, which that's not sustainable longer term. So I think if you stick him in your flex and you need a bit of boom on your team, I'm more excited about him than if you're expecting him to be sort of a core piece. And you've got a lot of players. If you've got a lot of players like him, I just think it's going to be a bit of a mess for you. You're going to have weeks where you score 100 points and weeks where you score 200 points, which is no good really. Keep Trade Cut, I've got him wide receiver 31. Again, I think it's interesting because he has flashed. There is potential that he gets the new QB in the future. We know our thoughts on Terry McLaurin, that we've been lower than consensus. So we can probably see a pathway to wide receiver 1 on that team. Curtis Samuel, it seems that he's dusted him out of the way and took the wide receiver 2 spot. Curtis Samuel great at the start of the season and not now. So there's reasons to be excited about Dotson, but I do also feel that what he's done touchdown wise is unsustainable and he's very team dependent on your dynasty squad. So let's try and clarify where we value him. We've got first trade Dotson and the 2023 201, or your favourite guy on earth for both of you, actually, Jameson Williams.
Yeah, you know what you're doing with this one, Kev, picking mine and Ali's crush from this past draft. Yeah, I mean, it is tough because I had Jameson right up as my wide receiver 2 in this past draft class. So, yeah, I've been really eyeing him. I'm going to stick with Jameson Williams. I know we've yet to fully see it, but we've seen little glimpses of it just in the few snaps that he's played these last few weeks. And I mean, I've been super excited by what I've seen. So while I do think that 201's a solid player and Dotson's obviously looks solid as well, I just think that potential upside in James Williams. I mean, if this is a guy that I have my wide receiver 2, you aren't getting the wide receiver 2 of this next upcoming class at that 201 spot. So yeah, I'm happy to stick. Maybe it might be Tate Lock, maybe, but I'm going to stick with my guy in Jameson Williams.
It's not Take Lock, Matt. Don't worry. What Jameson is doing right now is he's driving his price down so that what me and you can trade for him in even more places. So
it's hard when you've got him in every league, though, isn't it, Ali?
There's still a little bit of room for me to invest in him. So yeah, I'll take him in this scenario.
I mean, you guys, Jameson Williams, wide receiver 30 in a Keep Trade Cut. Unbelievable. Anyway, move on. Second trade, Dotson or Terry McLaurin.
I mean, you mentioned it earlier, Kev. I don't think any of us have been super on Terry McLaurin. He's shown flashes, but yeah, not a guy that any of us have really been super on. So I'm just going to take the chance in Dotson, showing us a little bit more than what we've seen from Terry. McLaurin, I think, while he's a solid wide receiver, I just can't get behind him, to be honest. So I think I'll take a chance and hope that Dotson can maybe show us something in his year 2.
I'll take McLaurin just because I think you can flip him for a bit more than Dotson right now. I think he holds a bit more value in the community.
Good stuff. Final one, Dotson or Alec Pierce and the 206 from this year's class.
Yeah, I feel like this is more targeted toward Ali than maybe me, but yeah, I'm going to stick with Dotson. I think Alec Pierce again shown flashes, but I just feel like Dotson we've yet to fully see what he can do, and as I say, he's looked good at the start of the year. I feel like he's coming back from that injury this year, and hopefully with improved quarterback play, he can hit that ceiling. So yeah, I'm going to stick with Dotson on this one.
Alec Pierce has been a bit frustrating, really. We've seen flashes of what he can do, and I still like his upside. So I'll take that side. I'll take the Alec Pierce, and I'll take the 206 where I can. Bit of a dart throw, but yeah, we like the second round guys.
Excellent stuff. So we're going to keep it at wide receiver. Another guy that's he was up and down a little bit to begin with, but he's become consistent recently. Who's your next guy, Ali?
It's Zay Jones. We spoke about his quarterback earlier. Got to talk about the star wide receiver, the possible league winner. We've talked about McKinnon as the running back league winner. Well, Zay Jones could be the wide receiver league winner this year. He was the wide receiver 1 this week, just on 8 targets, 6 receptions, 109 yards, and 3 touchdowns. As he beat the Cowboys in overtime, so that was great for all of us. I know you two enjoyed that result. Yeah. But it's not just been this week; it's been 3 out of the last 4 weeks. He's exploded really. He's been the wide receiver 4 over that period. It's in 41 targets, 27 receptions, 347 yards, and 4 touchdowns. Quite funnily, the only bad game he had was against the Lions, where I had him in every DFS lineup hoping for an explosive game. But that was the one game where he didn't cash in. But yeah, right now his quarterback Trevor Lawrence is slinging it. 42 pass attempts the last couple of games, which ranks sort of top 7 or 8 in the NFL. Just a really fun offense to watch. Zay Jones, that deep threat. The Jaguars aggressive, pushing the ball down the field. It's really great to see. Zay Jones has been great, and it's been one of the best purchases for a real life NFL team. I think they got him for a 3-year deal, a really cheap 3-year deal in the offseason. So his contract's until 2024. They've gotten out at the end of 2023. So you've got him at least until next season, which is really good for a guy that you could pick up so cheap or even off waivers earlier in the season. I think the upside is there for Zay Jones, especially the end of this season and even next season. I think when Calvin Ridley comes in, I think there's still a role for Zay Jones on this offense. I think he's done enough where Trevor Lawrence trusts him. He's that deep threat. He's probably going to play a little bit less with Ridley on the field. But we know they've got Christian Kirk, another great weapon there. It's just a really exciting time for this offense as a whole. And Zay Jones is a piece where if you're not in the playoffs, I think you can look to sell him. I think his stock has never been so high. But if you are in the playoffs, he's someone that could possibly help you win in the next couple of weeks. You can pick him up really cheap, 3rd round pick, something like that, that could really be in one of your flex positions and help you win a game this week or next week.
I'm going to do my best to try not to mention Evan Ingram on this one because I'll fall into a trap. But I think Zay Jones, a lot of how you view him is based on next season. Do you think Calvin Ridley is the Calvin Ridley? Do you think Evan Ingram stays? Do you think Trevor Lawrence continues his growth into that top 5 Dynasty QB? I think paying a 3rd for him is fine. Paying a couple of 3rds is fine for him because he's a top 20 wide receiver this season. I think wide receiver is a replaceable asset though as well. So if it came down to, let's say, Jerick McKinnon or Zay Jones for the roster, I'd probably take Jerick McKinnon if I needed that running back support rather than the wide receiver support. I think if you're going for a flex guy out of those two, I'd be taking Zay Jones as the guy to be targeting based off the fantastic advice we've given off the show. Do I think he'll be anything next season? Probably not, but for a 3rd round pick, I'm happy to throw that in on a contending side and really help on that final push because he's a short sample, but he has overtaken Kurt these past few weeks. Will it continue? Probably not, but for a 3rd, I'll find out.
Yeah, I mean, it's definitely been that that potential league winner, that guy that's come out of nowhere really and put up great numbers. If you probably managed to get him off waivers, to be honest, this off season, because I don't think anyone really was too high on him. I think I got him like one of my last picks in Scott Fishbowl, and he's carried that team basically in terms of wide receivers. So he's been fantastic. You've got him for next to nothing, and if you have managed to grab him, you're super happy at where he's got you right now, and just giving you that solid flex play that you kind of want from these guys that you can get for next to nothing. So it's been a fantastic year, and not too surprising given how much we've just been singing the praises of Trevor Lawrence. I mean, the fact that he's taken that step forward has obviously been a huge factor in Zay Jones taking that leap this year as well. And I think I'm a little bit with Kev in terms of next year. I think Calvin Ridley, while he's not played a great deal of football over the last couple of years, I think I'm on the side of backing that talent. The fact that the Jags have brought him in and stepping in as being the wide receiver 1 or wide receiver 2 on this offense with Christian Kirk there as well. And I feel like Zay Jones is going to take a little bit of a step back. So I do feel like he is more of a win now piece than someone you can bank on long term. But as I say, overall, I think you've got to be super happy if you've managed to get him on your roster this year, because he's definitely helped you out through the season. So interested to know where you sit on him. I mean, Kev's kind of just ruined my first question by saying what he'd give up to acquire Zay Jones right now. But my first trade offer is, if you're a contending team, I mentioned that I traded McKinnon away for a couple of 23 thirds. So would you do the same to grab Zay Jones if you're a contending team? Would you pay up a couple of early 23 third round picks?
Yeah, I think so. I think they'd be the very maximum that I'd be prepared to pay. I'd be happy with a third and a fourth, something like that, or just a third, something like that, or a future third, something like that. But too early 23 thirds would be the maximum. I think if you had a wide receiver go down, or you got Trevor Lawrence in your team, I think that stack's pretty good right now. Just for the next couple of games, I think I would be prepared to pay that for a contender.
Yeah, I'd give you 2/3, Matt Goss. You're a nice guy.
I appreciate that, Kev. So the next trade one I've got for you, as I said, I struggle, to be honest, to think of some trades with Zay Jones being valued so low and that uncertainty looking forward. So the next one I've gone for another guy that's in form at the moment. So it's Zay Jones or Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, this is a really good one, and two people I value pretty similarly, but I'll just lean Donovan Peoples-Jones from what I've seen from that early chemistry with Deshaun Watson. I think they've been linking up really well at Cleveland. A really young guy that's got lots of upside. He's shown more than enough for me to go forward that I want to roster him. So I'll take the chance on Donovan Peoples-Jones.
Yeah, I'll take the Jones with the double barrel surname, the longer surname. I just think there's more potential there that he's something next season, despite people forgetting David Bell exists and that David Njoku's generational.
Right, and the final trade offer I've got for you is Zay Jones and an early 23 third, or this one's probably more to either than Kev, or Joshua Palmer.
Yeah, it's a really good one, because we spoke about Palmer. Then he's been slightly disappointed now that Keenan Allen and Mike Williams are back in the lineup, but I'll still go for Josh Palmer just for that future projection of what he can be, rather than Zay Jones what he's going to be right now. So I'll lean Palmer side if I'm not a contender.
Yeah, let's go for Palmer. Let's keep the peace in the camp. So last guy of the show, it's someone I'm going to talk about, tight end. We're going all the way QB, running back, wide receiver. We have to finish on tight end really, because I've got OCD. And we're going to talk about Mark Andrews, someone that's not been great recently, not this week, not recent weeks. A lot of it ties into Lamar Jackson not being, well, first of all, not around, but since week 3, he's not been his usual self. There's other factors. They lost Hollywood Brown. Rashad Bateman's been injured, so it's all sort of fell on Mark Andrews, but he's not been efficient. He's not put up the numbers you'd expect. He's still getting the volume. He's still getting the targets, but he's not performing as well as you'd expect. He's miles behind Travis Kelce on this season's output. You was expecting him to be very similar, if not better, based on last season, him overtaking him and being, about 5 or 10 years younger than Travis Kelce. So if you've took him in a startup at a similar spot to Kelce, or even a round and a half before, you're not very happy on that one. So So yeah, Mark Andrews, he's obviously young. He's tight and won at Keep Trade Cup. People love the fact that he's got so many years on Travis Kelce, that he's got so much more proven ability than Kyle Pitts has shown. So really interesting guy. I think we are expecting a bounce back, but you've got to be kicking yourself if you're an Andrews owner, and you could have had Kelce at the start of the season as a pivot and got some on top of that. I think, yeah, you're going to be pretty fuming. And the fact that you've got Andrews on your contending sides, are you confident that he's going to produce as a top tight end for the next 2 games? I know I'm not.
I mean, I'm only confident if I've got Travis Kelce at tight end if I'm going to these playoffs, because beyond that, it's been an absolute, it's been a minefield in terms of tight end. And it's been a shame with Mark Andrews, because as you mentioned, made such a strong start to the year. We're all saying, he should have easily been the tight end one in Dynasty. He's looked great, tied to Lamar Jackson. As I say, made a really strong start to the year, but it has been a shame and a bit of a, like, I don't understand why it's happened to us, why his efficiency has dropped off. You mentioned, Kev, about Lamar Jackson struggling and obviously being injured now as well. That's definitely been a part of that, but we've seen it before with Mark Andrews. He's always been that solid tight end, and he's still getting that volume at the minute. It just doesn't seem to be gelling together. He doesn't seem to be getting the receptions out of those targets. He's not getting the touchdowns that we've seen over the last couple of years. So it's just been one of those really strange down years for Mark Andrews. I'm still confident, I think, long term that he is going to return to be that elite tight end. But I do think it's interesting as well with Rashad Bateman going down. You think that would just lead to more opportunities for Mark Andrews. So it's been a real surprise to see him take a step back rather than a step forward when he went down. And then just thinking into next year as well, I think the Ravens, there's still a need in that wide receiver. I know Bateman looked good when he was on the field, but we need to get Lamar Jackson some weapons, I think, and really see what he can do in the passing game. So I'm a little bit concerned that they add yet another weapon to this offense, but I do think in terms of tight end, Mark Andrews is always going to be that solid tight end, just because he is such a target monster, and that's what you love, don't you, in fantasy? You want those tight ends with those opportunities. So I think he will bounce back, but yeah, it's been a tough one this year for Mark Andrews.
Yeah, certainly. It was the week that I traded for Mark Andrews. I think it was week 6 where he scored his final touchdown. So I put it down to it's my fault. But it has been. It's been really weird. I think, that was his last touchdown. There's a crazy stat. I think that they've not thrown a touchdown to the wide receiver position since something like week 4 or something stupid like that as well. It's just what's going on. And what we're seeing when Lamar Jackson went down hurt last time, with Tyler Huntley came in and had really good connection with Mark Andrews, but it's been really odd. It's not great for the passing options for the Baltimore Ravens. It's been a bit of a weird year. I do wonder whether it is a time maybe you can buy him on the cheap, knowing that he's going to have the bounce back next season. If Lamar gets paid and sticks around, maybe he can bounce back and be that top tight end we know he can be. So maybe there's that, but maybe not. Whether we'll go through his trade scenarios now. So Mark Andrews plus the 205, Kev, or Travis Kelce.
If it's today, it's Kelce, baby.
Yeah, for me, it's got to be Kelce, just dominating at the moment. So, yeah, Travis Kelce.
Yeah, all right. Mark Andrews or the 104?
See, I like tight ends a lot. Mark Andrews, just based on the fact that 104 could be a bust, but probably not. Yeah,
I agree with you. I think Mark Andrews, because he is that elite tight end, you don't get many of those tight ends about in fantasy. So, give me that known elite option in Mark Andrews.
Yep. All right. Mark Andrews or Dallas Goedert and the 112.
So tough this. I'll take Goddard and the pick. Go Birds.
Hate to agree with Kevin and an Eagles player as well, but yeah, Dallas Goedert and that 112 for me as well, please.
What a lovely finish to the show. So that brings us to the end. We've looked back at week 15 of the NFL season. Thank you for tuning in. Be sure to follow us on Twitter and YouTube at Fantasy Wildcard. There's no rest for us. We're back next Tuesday with the podcast. We're back on Wednesday with the stream. So thank you once again. Have a good one. Merry Christmas. And we'll see you again soon.